Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on USBN Sports. And as always, joining me is my co-host Steve Ellis. And Steve, I'll tell you what, our next guest, I'm really excited. We've been trying to get him for a while, but he's kind of a little bit busy right now. But played football, baseball, and basketball at Anderson. Great athlete. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I remember distinctly his senior year and the end of the year. So we're kind of going to get into that a little bit later. But and then also following his path to UC as I'm a season ticket holder. So can't wait to get talk to James.
Well, great player. I loved watching him play all the sports. He probably could have played more sports than he did if he was allowed. But a great player and a great kid and a great family. So I'm super happy that he's with us.
Yeah, me too. So as we said, joining us is James
Yeah,
Camden.
thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. So let's go back to your days growing up in Anderson. Talk about what it was like growing up. Steve and I always have this battle. What side of Anderson did you grow? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I grew up right off Wolf Angle, like literally 1 minute away from Anderson. And I grew up with my three sisters in our house, and I was always playing sports, always running around outside. And pretty big football family, and football worked out for me. So
That's
So
awesome.
what elementary school did you go to?
I went to Guardian Angels
Oh, okay. All
1
right.
through 8. My mom's a real Catholic, and she wanted us to go to private school. That's where all my family went, and our cousins all go to GA.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah.
All right.
What made the and you said that what made the flip that why not McNick then?
Yeah. So I was debating McNick, St. X even, but it ultimately came down to my dad graduated from Turpin actually, but his grandparent or my grandparents, his parents both graduated from Anderson. And like growing up, I was playing baseball with like Joey Newton. I got to know the Newton family and like Matt Thone and Mason Niskern. And I always got along with them and loved them. And I was talking to Chris Newton, Coach Newton, and he really looked after me and told me, hey, come over to Anderson, check it out and stuff. And I loved it. And that's where my sister was too. So it made an easy transition. And I had a lot of family members. Like my cousins also went to Anderson, Kristen Sweeney, Sarah Sweeney.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just made it easy for me to go there. And I loved it.
So are you the youngest?
I'm the second child. Because Emily Camden's my older sister, and then me. And then I've got a younger sister, Katie Camden, who just graduated from Anderson.
Okay.
And then I have a youngest sister again, who's 10 years old now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. So when you were growing up, were you involved with sports at GA?
Yeah. GA was a huge, like, football at GA was like a big day for us. They were playing the NFL. It was first through eighth grade in order all day long. Like we go to church in the morning and then play football all day. And so, yeah, and they were making food and they had announcers and music, like, which I don't think every school did that, but we played in the CYO and it was always great competition. Like, we were playing all the schools that fed into like LaSalle or Elder or St. X. So there were some big names growing up. And
Wow.
then I also played basketball there, and they didn't have a baseball team, but I was playing like select baseball when I was that young. And
Who'd you play for baseball?
I played for Midland growing up
Okay.
until like seventh, eighth grade. I started moving around, and then I ended up with Cincinnati Baseball Club (CBC). That's who I played
Okay.
with in high school.
Okay.
And then I also, when I was a kid, up until sixth grade.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. No surprise. So when you were growing up, what was your favorite sport?
it was always like I always told everybody, whatever season I was in, that was my favorite sport at the time.
Nice.
Like
I like that answer. That's a good
I
answer.
never picked a favorite, but I had to drop wrestling because I did love basketball, and like all the kids in my grade were doing that, and I was the only one wrestling, and I just ended up making that switch to basketball.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to get into football in a second with where you're at now, but let's go back into high school and talk about a couple of the other sports you played in basketball. And I got to watch you play basketball at Anderson. Now, did you play for De La Salle all 4 years, or had Frank come back?
I had De La Salle for all 4 years.
Okay.
Coach Frank Brandy was an assistant my senior year.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so talk about that experience about playing basketball, and who all were your teammates on those teams?
Yeah, so my sophomore year was the first year I went up to varsity, and I actually started my sophomore year, and that was like Drew Huxtable and Hunter Bodie, and that
Nice.
team was decent, and like we were competitive. Then my junior year was not very competitive. We lost like 20 games almost,
Oh wow.
but that was like Joey Newton, Matt Thune was on that team, Josiah, some other guys, but that was a rough year.
Okay.
But we were always like we practiced hard. We just couldn't bring it together.
Yeah. But you had a pretty good shot though. Yeah, you could shoot them deep though, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's about all I could do. I was trying to expand a little bit, but yeah, I could shoot.
That's funny. And then you also played baseball at Anderson too. Is that right?
Yeah, I played baseball for 3 years at Anderson, and my fourth year, COVID canceled the season, so I never
Oh,
had a senior season of baseball. Yeah,
ah, jeez. Okay. And who was
but
your coach those years?
we had it was Andy I first, and
And
then it
yeah.
was Drew Schmidt, Coach Drew Schmidt,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
it would have been Coach Barry Martin my senior year, who I loved working with and was really excited for that season, but we didn't make it to play.
Okay. Boy, that's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So let's get into let's get into football. You said you played all 4 years, correct?
Yeah.
All 4 years. And were you on the part of that transition when it was from DC to Dryer? Or was it all Dryer?
No, my first year there was the new era, Coach
Was it?
Dryer.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That,
that was fun
and,
time.
and that it really was. I mean, because I think the year before they were 1-9 wasn't very good, and it wasn't, no one knew what to expect with Dryer, and so that was just had to been an exciting time because Anderson football's always been really really good, and then they just had a little bit of a drought, and so it had to be exciting for you coming in as a freshman and then getting into that new era with Dryer.
Yeah, it was really exciting. And Coach Dryer, like I have so many good things to say about Coach Dryer, but just his energy and the competitiveness, like as soon as I got there, I was like, yeah, this is high school football. Like this is what it's supposed to be like. And yeah, I came from GA, so I kind of flew under the radar a little bit with those coaches. But I was played running back my freshman year until a couple guys got hurt, and then I was the quarterback freshman year.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And so I was always with Dryer and Nick Osborne did a lot, who's now coaching at Western Bound. So that was definitely a fun year.
Yeah, that's pretty. So that's I kind of want to kind of go a little bit forward here. Your senior year, and I talked about it in the beginning. The thing that was amazing to me was you showed what a great athlete you were, the kind of leader you were, as you played linebacker on defense almost your senior year, and then you went to Dryer and said, I don't know if this is true, so you can help me out and kind of explain the story, but said, hey, we're a little thin at wide receiver. I'll play wide receiver. And how big that was. I remember playing Kings, and I remember going nuts. I could probably pull the video. Playing Kings, big game. Second quarter, your number gets called, and you score on 2 consecutive series, 2 TDs, one on a 20-yard pass, one on an 11-yard pass. You ended up that game, first game playing 6 for 87 and 2 touchdowns. Talk a little bit about how that all materialized and how you played wide receiver.
Yeah, so this is a crazy story, but so I played quarterback and safety my freshman year, so that's where I was. Sophomore year, I go in and I'm like, I want to play varsity. Like, what can I do to be playing varsity as a sophomore? And they tell me we need to just switch to defense if that's what you want to do. So I switch and I'm fully playing safety for that year and my junior year. But the whole time I wanted to be playing offense as well. Like I wanted to go both ways, and he didn't really do that.
Yeah.
But then my junior year I get hurt, and I don't really have a junior year. I broke my leg, and I was out for like literally 11 weeks with a busted up leg. So my senior year, I go into the meeting and I'm like, yeah, I want to play offense and defense for this year. Like I can do it all, whatever you want me to do, call my number. I don't end up doing a lot in the summer because I'm also playing baseball. Like I wanted to play baseball in college as well. I was pursuing that dream, and I wasn't that big of a kid until like I grew my senior year a lot. But the first 2 games I'm playing just defense. And Coach Dreyer, we just lost to Harrison. We got shut out. And Coach Dryer's like, I've never been shut out. I'm never getting shut out again. He's like, I need people who want the ball in their hands to come to my office and tell me. So the next day I go into his office and I'm like, snap me the football. I'm like, I'll play quarterback. Whatever. I'm like,
I love it.
yeah. So then then all the coaches are in there. It's the whole coaching staff. And like some of them are telling me like, you're crazy or something like that. Like others were telling me, yeah, I believe in him. Give him a shot. And so we go outside and literally do like 7-on-7, and he's making me throw footballs against Jackson Kuhn, and I barely know the offense. And it ultimately and Jackson was a good player, and he always was working his butt off. But it came down to, he was like, you can play some wide receiver this week, and we'll see what you can do. So then the third down came up, and I caught my first pass, and I started kick returning that game, and I'm like, come on, like, this is what I do. Let's go. Like, just trying to fire Dreyer up, let me go in on offense, and he finally did it, and it worked out. So
and it was huge too in that game. I mean, that was, you ended up losing, but it was still a good thing, and I think it lit the fire. But yeah, like you said, you guys not only got shut out, but it was 6-0 against Harrison. It was like brutal.
That's crazy.
That was such a great defensive game too. Like that defense, we played probably our best defensive game that day. We were so frustrated after that.
I mean, you guys, I don't know how many times we're within area to try to score and you couldn't score, or just stupid mistake. I mean, I mean, like you said, that's just a game I'll never forget. But I guess it was good because it got you in there. But then the other part of your senior year that I want to get into is the last 2 games. You lose one of probably the best Turpin Anderson games I've ever been involved as a player or I mean, it was a heartbreaker. But, game 29-28, Jackson Kuhn got hurt. We didn't even know it until that next week, getting ready for Walnut Hills, we find out, and everyone's like, guess who's playing quarterback? And I'm like, who? And they mentioned you, and I'm like, there's no way. Come on. No way. So talk about that. Let me throw this out real quick, Steve. This is just unbelievable.
Okay.
Walnut Hills, his first game as a quarterback, they won 34-31. They were down, I think, 21-0. He goes 17 for 25, 153 yards passing, but he was 23 for 148 rushing and 2 touchdowns in his first game as a quarterback.
Really?
And they come back and they end up winning on a last-second field goal, 34-31. And against Loveland, this is even better.
Nice.
They win 63-8, 14 for 16, 126, a touchdown, but he was 16 for 190 rushing and 4 touchdowns.
Oh my God.
So
and no interceptions?
No interceptions. I don't think.
Oh no, awesome. I threw one interception against Walnut.
Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah, I tried to throw it away and the kid dove for it.
That's incredible though.
Yeah,
it really. So just talk about that. I mean, again, you do the wide receiver thing. How did it all materialize about quarterback? Is it because you went in and talked and said, "Hey, we did this," and they just said, "Okay, let's do this. Let's let him do it."
Yeah, that definitely was part of it. Because then, like, Coach Lynch came up to me and he's like, You're getting what you're asking for. Like, let's see what you can do." And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Because I played my freshman year. Like I said, I played quarterback my freshman year and loved it. And I knew the offense still. Like, I knew every run play. I could do all that. And, like, it's pretty simple, like, one read throws that I was making.
Yeah.
Or, like, this is the route. If it's open, hit it. If not, take off.
Run.
So,
yeah.
But preparing for that game was insane because that was coming off of like the most devastating loss of my football career.
Yeah.
And then they said Jackson's fingers are broken or his hand or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Put me at quarterback. So and I had some bruised up ribs. Like I even went in for an MRI, I think. It was an MRI or an x-ray on my ribs because I had gotten cracked in the Turpin game. So I'm like kind of limping. I was like no contact for the whole week, just learning how to run the offense. And then I put the rib cage on and went to Walnut, and it was full go. Like Coach Dreyer pulled me. He pulled me to the side before that game, and he's like, "This is your game, son. Like whatever you got, do it right now. We're gonna win this game together. Let's do it."
And what was a big part of that was that big 40-yard run that you had. That was unbelievable. I'll never forget that run because it was at a point. I could be wrong, but it was like a big third down. And I think you had a big run, and it was just an incredible run. And And not only do that, and I mean, because you still had an outside shot of winning the league, and still had a shot for the
Yeah.
playoffs. So that was
Yeah,
huge.
we did. Yeah, that was a crazy. And that game, I was still playing safety, and like I even took 2 snaps at corner during third down. They put me in a corner and said, "This they're about to throw it this way."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then at one point in the season, I was kick return, punt return, safety, and playing quarterback for 2 full games.
Not surprised.
Yep.
Not
Yeah.
surprised.
And I loved it. That's like everything you could ask for as a player.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's get into after high school. Unfortunately, with baseball, that got taken away from you. Unfortunately, with COVID. But what was your thought process going through your senior year, and what your plans were going to be for the following year for college?
Yeah, so I wasn't thinking much. Like I said, my junior year was kind of taken from me, so I didn't have any looks from any coaches, and I never felt like I was, as a freshman and sophomore, I never once thought I'm going to be able to go play football at a big school. I was like 165 pounds, 170 pounds, like maybe 190 my senior year, if that. And then I have the season I do, and I got a couple offers from like Morehead State, Dayton, Butler, and kind of as like the season's over already after my senior year of football. And I go to Dry with kind of like a last chance kind of thing. And I was like, what about UC? Can you talk to anybody at Cincinnati? And talk to anybody at Miami? And those are the 2 last schools I said. And he goes, let me make a call. And he calls up Chad Bowden, who it happened really fast. This was like at the last period of the day of school. And then he's like, send your huddle clip, send it to Chad Bowden, send it to this number. And I send it. Coach Dreyer talks on the phone for like 10 minutes. And the story that I heard was that him and Coach Freeman, Chad Bowden and Coach Freeman were sitting there, and they watched my huddle sitting right there in the airport and watched it and said, yeah, like, we'll give this kid a shot. So like 15 minutes later, they call me. I talk to him. He's like, the numbers are good right now. If you want to commit and come here, we'll give you a chance. You'll be a role guy for a while, but you'll have your foot in the door.
Wow.
I committed that same day. Like as soon as I did that, I texted. I was like committed.
Absolutely. Wow.
You had a scholarship, or was it a walk on? Was it like a preferred
No,
walk?
I had a preferred walk on.
Really?
The scholarships were all given out by then. Like it was
Yeah.
pretty late. Yeah.
That's so cool, James. It's so cool. So you obviously were under Fickle, correct?
Yep.
So talk about what he was like, and then unfortunately talk about how all that came down about him leaving, and what kind of imprint he made on you and the team, and what the after effects were.
Yeah. So I mean, Coach Fickle was a great influence on me and my football career. As little opportunity as I had, just because of my age and some of the teams we had, I didn't have as many opportunities. But he's an inspirational coach. He's a culture guy. He believes in what he believes in, and he preaches it, and he makes you believe in it too.
Yeah.
Which is what good coaches do. And yeah, I mean, he's very militant. If the meeting starts at 5 o'clock, like everybody's in there at 4:40, like 20 minutes early, full team room.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so we love those seasons that we had. Those are some great teams, great players. And then when it was time for him to go, we didn't know anything that was coming. We were still waiting to hear what bowl game we were going to play in. And they called team meeting, and we had kind of heard rumors, and we go in there, and it's just like there's no air in the room. Like he left, whatever. But then at that point, I couldn't speak more highly of Coach Kerry Combs. Like, I talk about a room that has no air in it. Coach Combs comes up, and he just gives life to you again. And he's like, listen, we're going to go win this bowl game. It's not about who's in front of the room. It's about the players and the guys in the seats. And he just made us believe again and like want to keep working.
Yep.
And that's the truth. I mean, he was a great leader during that time.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I know that was probably very hard. I know as a season ticket holder, I think I've had more problems, and I'm getting adjusted to it because it's how the fans are, and I was one of those guys that I honestly was shocked, not that he left, but like I guess shocked that it was Wisconsin, I guess. Nothing against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I was just shocked that it was going to be a bigger. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. I mean, I was stunned. Plus, going to the Big 12, I thought he was going to stick around for at least that. But so, talk a little bit about the new coaching staff. You got Coach Satterfield comes in. Talk about how that's been with him and the new coaching staff. Seems like it's been a pretty good transition.
Yeah, it has been a good transition. Honestly, better than I thought. And I like Coach Satterfield from what I've seen from him. And he's an offensive coach. He doesn't coach me specific, like individually or whatever. But from what I've seen, he works hard. He can talk well. He's got good recruits, and he's got a great staff. This defensive staff, the D coordinator, Coach Brown, he knows what he's doing scheme-wise, and he's a real player coach, and he can get us fired up. So I love the defensive staff, and my linebacker coach is great. He came from Army. He's a great guy, great coach. And like the locker room, I feel like that's the most important transition part. And he's brought in all these guys that just seem to like they fit in well, and everybody's had open arms to everybody. And like through the spring, we've just gotten closer. And the strength staff is the first hire they made even before Coach Satterfield. And Nico Palizzetti, the strength staff coach, is unbelievable.
Is he?
And he's the real culture piece right now, getting everybody to gel, work hard, form it through hard work and being uncomfortable. So he's been great, and I couldn't say anything better about that staff as well.
Have you seen anything that's been like elevated or turned up a notch just because of the jumping into the Big 12?
Yeah, it seems like more definitely the workload in the weight room seems like it's a lot different. Coach Palizzetti came from Coach Nico. He came from Ohio State. So in the weight room, the workload is way up. Like we're running 4 times a week and lifting 5 times a week. And it's like optional on Saturday to come in and work out again.
Yeah.
So we're in there every day working. So that's definitely turned up a notch in my eyes. And also like kind of like professionalism, I think is the word. But it's just like a kind of autonomy and like what's expected of you. Like you were playing at this level against the best, and now you got to go and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. I went to the spring game, and you had a great spring game, and
Yes.
you obviously moved up the charts, and you had all that. You had to be pretty happy with the way that you played in spring ball. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, spring ball was great. It was a great opportunity with this staff coming in. They gave everybody a chance. They said we're all at ground zero now. We're gonna see who the best players are, and we're gonna play them, whoever they are. I don't care who you are. And so I was getting a lot of opportunities early in spring, and just making the most of them for a while. And when I was on the field, I was always busting my running as hard as I can and tackling as hard as I can. We did a lot of tackling too because it's a new staff. They want to see you can tackle. And that's been my strongest, since I was in first grade. We used to tackle for 30 minutes a day for 8 years at GA with my dad. And so I could always tackle, and we were tackling a lot, and I was making tackles, making plays, and it worked out.
Yeah, and hopefully it will, because I know everybody around me when I was at the spring game, every time you made a play, I was jumping up and screaming. So everybody thought, dude, this is a spring game, man. What the heck you doing? Like I have to get in preseason form too. I gotta try to pull a hammy jumping up or anything like that. So yeah, it was really cool to see, and hopefully we'll get to see you on there. And so I'll let you know. I'll probably text you and say, hey, I'm up here in this section, and if you ever make a big sack or something, I want you just to point up to me. That way I can tell everybody, say, hey, that one's for me, man.
Are you painting his number on your belly?
I will do. I promise I'll do that. I swear to God.
Or on your head?
I'm not lying about that. You do that, I swear I'll put Camden and your number on my belly, and I'll lift up my shirt. I swear. I'm not gonna lie.
That would be unbelievable.
Oh.
We'll make our section, the Camden Crazies or something.
That's it. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
So, James, you talked about your dad. Talk a little bit about your family a little bit more than we expanded on earlier, and the support staff you have with your family, and what they've done for you, and all these years up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, my dad has been the most influential to my athletic career for sure. Like the first sport I got into was wrestling, and it was my dad's favorite. And he thought, that's competitiveness. It's one-on-one. It's you versus him. And it's also like learn about leverage and body. So the first thing I ever did was with my dad, and we're wrestling when I'm like in kindergarten. And we would go to practice for an hour and a half and do that. And then he'd take me home, and then we're wrestling in the carpet for like another hour. So he did that, and then he coached me football straight through first to eighth, him and Dave Beiersdorfer. And we really worked fundamentals. And like I said, like if it was football, then we were out in the morning tossing the football or practicing tackling extra at home.
Okay.
And then so every sport like baseball, he was hitting throwing wiffle balls to me, I would hit, or I was doing off the tee in the garage. So he really taught me about like the drive and the competitiveness. And he would always say, like, you got to outwork everybody, take it day by day, stuff like that from my dad, which has been huge.
Yep.
And then I'd also say that he always knew how to get me around teams and coaches who knew what they were doing. And, he surrounded me with people who really taught me the game well. I've had unbelievable coaches my entire life.
Yeah. And your mom?
Yeah. And then my mom's there to, she's giving me food every time I need food. She's doing my laundry, giving me the ride when I need it.
Yep.
But they're a good team. They, my dad's the hammer, and
Well,
my
and
mom's taking care of me. So.
And they're both involved in everything. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they volunteer a lot, which is great to see.
Yeah. And Mary's just getting into all that now again. So they're restarting that process with Mary doing all her sports.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't say anything better about my sisters as well. Like the sacrifices that we made in the summer, instead of, going to the lake all weekend, we were traveling to play baseball. So my family has been like the greatest support, and the sacrifices they made for me in my career up to this point has been unbelievable.
So I got two more things before we get out of before I get into wrapping it up here. So did the team obviously see the predicted rankings? They got you down as 13th to finish 13th in the league, and does that add a little fuel to the fire for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that everybody kind of knows that we're going in there and that they expect us to not do well, whatever. I think that gives us a chip on our shoulder. And like we're thinking, like, what are you guys thinking? We're gonna compete in every game. We want to win every game we play.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset when we train and when we practice. And that hasn't budged in my eyes, and I know my teammates as well. So they can say whatever they want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love to hear that. And Steve, I just want you to know that we did the golf outing, and this man was, I think, one of the winners. They won it, so he's part of that.
Look at this, man.
He's part of the Anderson alumni golf outing winner. I think it's 2 years in a row, if I'm right. Could I be right on that?
Yeah, I think that was definitely their second one.
Yeah. Nice.
So
that's good. So you have both ends of the thing. So last year I got the horse's ass trophy for coming last. So that's great. You got last place and first place.
That's right.
That's good.
Perfect.
That's awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up real quick, but I just wanted to get with you. Give me your favorite high school memory, and then maybe give me your favorite college memory.
Yeah, so we were already talking about it earlier, but that Walnut game is probably my favorite game. Just feeling like coming off of such a bad loss and then being able to turn it around and revitalize everybody and remotivate everybody was great. Yep. And then coming to college, there's two that really stick out in my mind, but obviously winning that Notre Dame game was unreal at Notre Dame. And then, that was unbelievable. And then coming home for the AAC championship that same year, undefeated, to stay undefeated, win the championship, and go to the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
And we win it on like fourth down stops, like in the red zone. They flood the field. I'm out there in the middle of a mob out there. That was just almost surreal experience.
Yep.
Can't even imagine that. Can't even
imagine.
Yeah. That's good. So yeah, we'll definitely like I said, I'll let you know what section I am, so you can give me a point one time. I'll definitely have my Camden crazies up there for you. So it'll be good. So James, we really appreciate it. I know you're very, very busy. I know Steve and I are super excited to watch all the Anderson alumni, the football player, all the former players, including myself. Yeah. Are excited to watch you, and we'll be keeping a definite eye out for you. And I'll be at all the home games. Be at all the home games. So hopefully we'll get to to catch up with you. But again, thanks for taking the time with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and James Camden, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you guys next week.